Hey everyone, welcome to another Quorum One Future of Work Talk. And the goal of these talks is to give us all a chance to dig into the work of our members, the people that make Quorum One what it is. And we're going to be looking at a particular lens towards the future of work, consulting, individual contribution, contracting, future capitalism, and even the future of democratic systems. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sam Boone. Sam is actually a longtime friend of mine through her brother as well, who's my daughter's godfather. And I was best man at his wedding. Sam and I go back a while. It's fantastic to have her here in the forum with us. And Sam, I'll let Sam talk a little about herself, but just just a few words, Sam is just an absolute rock star contractor and independent consultant that's found all sorts of success in various realms like content strategy, UX, UI design at companies like that you may have heard of, like Atlas. So Sam, it's wonderful to have you here in Quorum once again. And did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything about who you are and where you're from?
Yes, we have both beaten each other in the championship of fantasy football league that we share. Yeah, probably our biggest connection to one another. Yes, hi everyone. I'm Sam. I guess at this point I would call myself a content specialist, but that was actually my second career. First career, I was a high school and middle school English teacher, and I've really taken the scenic route to get to this place because what does a teacher do? They take complex information, disseminate it, repackage it, and distribute it to diverse audiences. So it seems like a natural progression to work in content strategy and content design. Yeah. So we've also like to say that contracting was not what I've always done. I was a victim of COVID layoffs, a job that I was at for 4 years and loved, gave my heart and soul to, and they let me go with no notice. And I hit the ground running of just hustling to try and make connections and start working on my own terms. So I'd love to talk more about that today.
Yes, of course. It's fun. Two things. One, the fact that you used to be a teacher totally makes sense because of how precise and specific of a writer you are. So that makes a lot of sense that you bring that, instructional quality to writing and also, I assume, to your clients. And at the risk of, I swear I wasn't going to cry type of moment, when we were talking I feel like this is an experience that a lot of us in the quorum outside the quorum can relate to. Comfortable sort of, like I was talking about your superhero origin story. Your moment of change and path. Like, tell us a little more about what happened. During the pandemic, where this job turned into your current career.
Yeah, absolutely. So during the start of the pandemic, that first year, I was doing a great job. I was working on the content team, but it was a small team. So I was supporting paid and organic. But at one point, the team split and paid, which is a lot easier to validate success versus organic, especially SEO, can take some time to prove. And I think to whether it's budget or whatnot, it was never explained to me. But one day they called me into the office and they said, "You're done." And the entire content team was cut again with no notice. So I sat and cried for about 2 to 4 weeks. We'll say it was more like 4. And I said, "What do I want to do? What am I good at?" And it's funny that you mentioned writing because that was where I started. And I said, "Well, what can I do with that?" And I found an opportunity I did cold outreach to Scary Mommy. And Scary Mommy's two arms. One is their social content that you'll see, which will be, "My son is addicted to Omegle. I think my husband's cheating on me." They're that first person statement. And that's what you're going to see on their social feed. The other arm is their SEO content. And that was what I was an expert in. And I started writing for them articles like Big Lebowski quotes and what is the meaning of life and how to make your own cleaning solution at home, which was a big COVID hit. So I made dirt money and got to work for a huge brand that supported millions of people around the world. And from there, I got the confidence I needed to keep going.
So yeah, so it sounds like this experience with Scary Mom, which by the way sounds like the next door, but just for moms kind of thing. That's what it sounded like to me. And so in this experience with Scary Mommy, it feels like this was, whether you knew it or not at the time, the opportunity where you were honing these kinds of like skills and learnings that led to this thing that, at least in our earlier conversation, you referred to as the hustle. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the hustle and how how your experience shaped this sort of rubric that you have now for your work and for your
Absolutely.
clients?
The hustle is about taking the scenic route. It is, what is the opportunity, not just that I want, but that I'm good at, and kind of finding that marriage between the two and selling yourself, right? The best part, I think, about contracting is the interview process. It's typically, if it's the one to one where I found the company, it's maybe one conversation, two max, and you are told whether you have the job or not. It moves quickly, and you get to basically validate why you are awesome and keep that energy the whole way. Versus an in house role, which might have that first interview, then you have a panel interview, and then you have a project, and then you have the top dog interview. And by then, you've repeated yourself so many times that you've just, do you even believe it about your?
Yeah. So actually, on that note, other than these sort of institutionalized steps that we have to go through for some sort of in-house role, how, just in sort of your words, your opinion, your experience, why do you think that process is so abysmal? Sorry, when you win this, and how do you think companies could improve that? You know, based on your experience, both doing the client outreach and the sort of and also interviewing for in-house companies. What do you think about that?
I think that these in-house companies, I don't think there's a lot of conversations internally about what they're really looking for. You're going to have someone from one department that has a need, and then HR essentially is looking up, they start basing things off of a bulleted list or very just generic job description to match to somebody. You have to go through so many hoops to realize if you're a good fit. And that might not even be someone that you're going to be working with. And the thing that I really like about contracting that it does right is when you're interviewing for a contract role, you are being interviewed for your collaboration. You are being interviewed for what you are going to bring to the table immediately. I have to say, what makes managers perk up more than anything is when I say, hey, I know how to shorten the learning curve. I will take it upon myself to set up one on ones with people in every department so that I can learn how things work and how to do it well. And I will be ready to go to make an impact. And that is typically what they want to hear, but you don't get to sell yourself that way when it's a really long, drawn out in house process.
So it's almost like the in-house process conspires against building any kind of trust relationship. You think that's accurate?
I think I don't know if it's active. I think that they're maybe lacking. I think in-house roles are lacking the perception that you're hiring the person, you're hiring a human being. You're not hiring bullet points. You're not hiring their portfolio. Like I want you to know me and like me and say this person's going to be a great fit. This person's going to have an impact on my company. I don't want you to look at my resume and just say, "Oh, okay, hit all the keywords. You must be the right fit." Like, let's not waste each other's time.
Well, let's talk about keywords, because you, as an SEO and content specialist, strategist, expert, that's both something that you encounter in your client work and also sort of like a scourge of the recruiting and resume process. And in your opinion, is AI, just drop the AI part, is AI going to be a boon or a curse on this already sort of beleaguered recruiting process?
I'm so glad you
Ready.
brought this up. AI is all about how you use it. And there's really four main uses for AI to not only create the content to get the job, but the content within the job. And this isn't just about the written word or web. This could be anything. This could be development information. It could be all of that. So the 4 areas that I like to focus on, one is like talking to AI in a broad context, really at just what can I learn about a certain topic. And in this case, that's really helpful for resumes specifically when you might be talking about an industry you're not fully familiar with, even if the job is something you want. The second area is when it's a specific context, things that are topic, select research. This is like when you're asking AI to give you an outline based on keywords or CTA. You could feed in some examples. So that's usually where I put my sweet spot. I love having AI give me recommended outlines. The third is specific requests, like producing a draft. And then the fourth is refinement, right? Collaborating with AI, asking questions about your style or your tone of voice. And then if you apply that to your resume, it's going to help. And then you can feed it the job description or a couple of jobs you're interested in. That resume is going to come out and it's going to tell you here's what's good about it. It's going to compliment Sandwich, tell you what's good about it, what you can work on, and anything else that might be recommended. However, there is one thing AI doesn't do, and AI is not human. You have to rewrite or check your content to make it sound human. AI is not who I go to for any sort of finalization. A great resource that I like to use and teachers also use is an AI content detector. Particularly, I use copy leaks, but they're all over the place that educators use, and you can get free accounts. And that's going to tell you if something's in a human voice or not. I recommend plugging everything you do with AI into an AI content detector. That's going to keep it from getting flagged for certain words. And it's, again, it has to sound human. Even conversational resume bullet points are welcome. It makes it a lot less boring.
You know, Sam, I used to have on my resume for many years under the About Me, like the skills, it said Shout by the Isley Brothers. Do you know, and this was sandwiched in between Excel, Microsoft Office, do you know how many people ask me about Shout, the Isley Brothers?
Most of them.
Zero.
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 Interesting.
And this was in-person reviews, my resume sitting in front of us. Anyway, quick aside. So I can't help but notice that the sort of the framework that we're setting up here is that we have the systems, the structures, the processes, and you are, almost with like a childlike glee, playing all these mini games and sub games to really optimize and accelerate your success and your work. Um, how does that? What do you think the larger implications of that is? The fact that we have these kinds of, hey, here's a job, just apply, and if you're to a fit for it, we'll get back to you. But that's not actually the game, and that's not how any of it works. What does the future look like for a system like that? Can we continue scaling the mini games, or does something have to change?
I think people have been hustling for a millennia. Look, we have to adapt to the tools that are available to us, like AI, like this fast apply on LinkedIn. You need to be in the first 10 to even be seen in a lot of cases. But the idea of hustling, working the system, whatever the system may be, that's never going away. And that's where it comes to, yes, I am an extrovert. You don't have to be an extrovert. It's about how you talk about yourself. It's about using your skills to either demonstrate that you're going to save time or save money. And that's really the two things that most companies and people care about. And you can leverage that in a lot of ways. My collaboration skills will save time. I shorten the learning curve for onboarding to save money. These are all things that are it's the art of how you talk about your skill to apply it to the role. Again, I don't think it really matters what systems or tools are out there. I don't think that hustle is ever going away.
Do you ever miss working for an in-house or working as an in-house role?
I would say I loved working.
Okay. What do you not miss about work now?
So I when I left that job that I loved and gave my blood, sweat, and tears to, it felt like I just didn't matter. And the work, what I contributed didn't matter. And something I really love about contracting is I don't have to buy in to corporate culture whatsoever. I do not have to go to all hands meetings. I don't have to care about your mixer. I don't have to do any of those things. I can live my life and I'm so friendly and I want to get to know you. And it's all about establishing rapport from day one. But that's a professional relationship, even if we're friendly. And at the end of the day, when my hours are done and I've completed my work, I don't have to care about this job or any sort of corporate culture.
And also, you have a family with two lovely children that require your time.
Yes, I have a family and two children that require lots and lots of time. I have feral twin toddlers. We are in the thick of the terrible twos. They are in daycare. They are sick all the time. And the best part about contracting and sort of working this system is that when they are sick, I can take that time. Like, okay, am I going to get paid for those hours? No, but there's a balance and you get to make your own schedule. That's the other plus, by the way. I'm not a 9 to 5er. I never was a 9 to 5er. I would rather be an 8 to 3er or a noon to 9, which I'm doing right now because I have to work with a lot of people in Australia. And so that's another great thing. If I have a sick kid, I get to watch them. I still can work. Life moves on, and it's a lot less stressful.
Well, thank you. I think we're going to take a couple questions from the audience here. This one is from Esteban, I believe, whom you also know.
Mm-hmm.
And Esteban writes, how do you think about the value of what you do versus how you price that in a flex work world? And continuing, being laid off is one of the toughest experiences in the modern workplace for all of the workers. Very often we, as contributors, have very little insight into the perceived value and cost of our work. There's a lack of transparency that is baked into the system. It's no longer people are increasingly looking to flex work and alternative ways of working. I wonder, how do you think about the value proposition of what you do and what it does for those you do it for?
I think that's a great question. To get to my current pay rate was a slow build, but it's the commitment to the build, right? If I have a per article rate for Scary Mommy, and then I get my contract that's hourly or retainer, and then I get the next contract and I say I'm going to do a 10% increase or whatnot, there's a goal in valuing myself, right? I live outside of New York City. I have a very high standard of living. And what someone might accept living in another area, and I won't judge them, that's not how I would value myself. And I have to keep that in mind. So I think not just having a number, but also being okay saying no. There's a perception that you have to take the first opportunity. But I think in valuing what I do and how to price that is being okay with saying no. And there are a few things that I look for when recruiters reach out, right? You turn that on your LinkedIn, you'll get a bunch of recruiters. If they're not forthcoming with their rate, I won't even entertain it because there's a reason they're keeping that under wraps. If they are talking about if the details up front are about being on site versus the actual work that you'll be doing, that's a big red flag. And so those are the things where you can start to tick boxes of I'm not going to be valued here. I might even be underpaid. And I can see where there might even be micromanagement, which is almost just repulsive to most contractors. So that is the closest thing I would say to like how I value myself and how I price it. I have to say though, it takes time to get to that point, right? I think there's when you're honest with yourself, there's an outside in approach. And it's like, who wants me? Who likes me? Who's giving me attention? And that's really nice for your ego. But when you have a family support and you want to really make a career out of contracting, you have to be okay with saying no and finding the work that is most interesting to you that you can start having an impact immediately.
Yeah. On that note, and this is a question from Hank, and it made me think about something you mentioned earlier, and it's sort of a contradiction in a way. I think establishing boundaries is a very important skill to learn, professionally or personally. Hank was wondering if you have any tips or recommendations for people thinking of making the jump into flex work. And it reminded me of a story that I believe you told me earlier, if you would mind recounting. I think it was a scary mommy. Basically, someone passed something to your desk that you had very, very little experience in, and then the resulting, case is basically we're now into the say yes area to get your career started off. Is that? I don't know if it words in your mouth though. Do you remember that story?
Well, yes, but I think specifically to this question, again, being honest is that's starting point is a grind. And while today I have my rate and my value and I know what I can contribute, at that point, early when you're just starting out, I didn't take whatever came my way. But there was networking. I was talking to talking to family. I was reaching out to old colleagues, anyone that would connect me. And I still do this, right? Those relationships are with contracting is what's going to get you those jobs without paying a recruiter the extra 10 or $15 an hour that you deserve, really. But I think if you are just starting, it might be best to treat it as a side hustle first, and then you can start to build out your resume where I have separation, I have contracts, and then I have in-house. And now the contracts is the whole first page, but it started with just a small section. And those brand names and the bullets, the projects start to build out. But that first step is probably just who's going to take a chance on you. And again, it's how you word it, right? Like, I was a teacher. How did I find other jobs outside of teaching? And this comes across all the time with teachers. They don't know how to make the step anywhere else. Your skills are applicable in so many different ways that you haven't even, okay? And that's where you have to be creative. If there's a project that you did that was for SEO, well, guess what? That's writing and collaboration and analytics, and all of that is touching this one area of SEO. So when you are trying to build out your resume to jump into flex work, think about that one job and how it might apply to so many different areas.
That's awesome.
But I do see another question that I'd love to answer.
The
So,
it's the same question that I want you to answer.
yeah.
And I'm getting there. Hank has a sub question, and I actually I really love to know the answer to this question. Let's say you start your own company. Let's say you wake up tomorrow in some reverse Kafka situation, and you're the CEO of a company. How do you go about hiring people? Would you even use resumes? Like, what are the sort of knowing what you know now, like going into that situation? What would you do? What sort of strategies would you employ? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, so I've run my own freelance teams. I've been in a director role. All these things were just not what I wanted for my career at this point. So I have the experience of hiring. And one thing I do like about resumes is um, most people can't write at all. That's a skill that is more rare than you think. Even the highest up executives probably can't write, and many can't read. So I do like resumes in the sense that it is your opportunity to sell yourself. And if it's some sort of design, like content design or content strategy, I care actually more about how you formatted your resume than the content on it. Are you making this engaging? Is this something that I want to look at? That makes me want to read it, right? That's the baseline. So then I'm going to dive in and I want to know who you are. And there's something that my brother started to do on his resume, which was like fun facts at the end. And I have that. And it says like twin mom, Tough Mudder finisher, 11-time Jazz Fest attendee. And it's actually how I know if someone read the whole resume. Because a lot of times they will reference it. And like, I went to Jazz Fest, but that sounds really fun. And that's like my actual tick box if they read the whole top to bottom resume. So those are things that I look for. Like, is someone, again, it's the hustle. Are you strategic? How are you trying to get my attention? That is going to get me to like you way more a lot of times than the actual content on it. So that's how I would use the resume.
Yeah. Thank you for, by the way, exposing that your brother stole that idea from me. I really appreciate that. And it's okay. I think I gave it to him freely. So I'm sort of thinking like all these, when you talk about strategies and you talk about, selling yourself, optimizing for all of these various systems, what does a professional world look like? Or do you think it's possible that there's a professional world where you get clients and get work solely or primarily based on just how good you are at it, where it doesn't require this sort of, like Plinko-esque mini games and sub games? Do you think that kind of a world is possible or something that you desire for yourself?
Absolutely. Fake it till you make it is only true if you put the work in to make it. Otherwise, you're stuck in this pretend mode. So yes, there's the games that you play and there's like manipulation to get attention, but there's so much learning and just activities to either leverage your network to learn more or even just studying. I mean, how many YouTube videos have you watched to remind yourself how to do something? I think that, I don't want to sound like all I do is play games to get there. But I think there's an honesty that comes from my work. And I think, like, I have a personal rule. I will push back something I disagree with a client. And you have to validate it. You have to say, here's why I don't think that's the right way and all the reasons. Then if they still want to go their route, they are the client, it's their choice, but I am committed to pushing back. It's about managing up. You are not some peon. You are this qualified expert that has been hired to do a specific job at the best of your ability. And I think sometimes the best of my ability is talking to clients and executives as if we are equals. So I think that is also part of it. And there's no games when you do that. You have to be as real as well.
Oh, and for your secret, you are equals to humans.
Exactly.
Personally, tell the audience a secret. You've always been equals.
Right? You've always been equals. You
Always
do
been
not need
equals.
to be afraid of anyone in any position or any title. It's not worth it. And you get so much more respect when you sound sure of yourself versus maybe or what if, just come out with the best idea with the right validation for that idea, right? We are not winging it. We are presenting qualitative and quantitative evidence, but just feel good about it that that's the best option.
For sure. Do you have, on the subject of the pushback, do you have, and at the risk of sounding like a corporate interviewer at the moment, do you have a story where you overcame challenge and tell us? Do you have a like an entertaining story or one that sticks out of your mind about one of those pushback situations? Because you mentioned to me that you push back less and you do it with gusto, right? You
Yes.
do it with, here's why I believe this is not the right way. Like a very, well, as you said, qualitative approach. Do you have one in which that just, I don't know, either it was received very well or received very poorly, like one of those that sticks out in your mind, something like that?
Both happen. I'm not going to use the client's name,
Of
but
course.
it's a big social media company, and they were doing that's it. There's like four of those, so that's narrowed down. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to pick a different story. So a story where it went well, different client. Basically, they wanted to create an experience for their they're an internal experience that helped with professional and personal growth. And in doing that, everyone thought that their piece of the puzzle was the most important. And I think we talked about this, right? Most people, their focus is like saving time and saving money. There's also the human connection is usually the third most important thing, but those two are the top. And you do not save time when you create decision fatigue. And throwing so many options at someone is going to usually make them freeze and back away. So my pushback in that situation was, what's the primary CTA? What is if they leave this experience, what is the one thing we want them to do? And I took all the research and even had some user research, and I presented it, and they had to discuss it with a massive team. There was a lot of cooks in that kitchen. And thankfully they're like, Sam, you know what? You're right. Let's do it. Let's do it that way. And I felt like there was a lot of resistance up until that conversation because everyone thought they were right. And after that, it was smooth. There was trust.
Yeah. I would dare say that trust, we at Quorum One, we talk a lot about trust relationships and building trust within all types of like professional, whether it's just within a community or with a client or with a coworker, right? And I think it's very gratifying to hear how critical building trust has been to your success. It's a very, very positive message in these trying times. And on that note, what do you think is the greatest challenge facing knowledge workers, independent knowledge workers?
I think the biggest challenge, there's a lot of challenges, but a big challenge for knowledge workers is this sort of like you succeed as a team and you fail as a team. If you're working, so I've had two clients that were massive. They were just massive workforce across the entire world. And that is where it's really, really challenging to get the collaboration you need to validate your work. And when you're a contractor, the goal is to get an extension, right? To have a retainer, to not have to hustle every 3 to 6 months for your next job. And I think the biggest challenge is when you have someone, maybe they've been at that company a very long time on your team, or they are also new, and you have to find a way to prove yourself while going at their pace. Because that's one thing about contractors, right? We try to work very fast. That's just our nature. So I'd say that one of the biggest challenges is pacing with a team to make sure that everyone is moving forward together.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I would say we could probably spend another 20 minutes talking about at least just the how unnecessary all of the competition is within company or organizations, especially when ostensibly you're going for the same end result, right? Which is to do something that's successful. Yes, working more as a team is certainly something that we should all be better at doing. Sam, we're getting close to the end of this. Is there any other topics or parting messages? Did you want to plug any of your socials so that the audience can find you? Have you written any books lately or published any pieces of writing that you'd love to get some more eyeballs on? Anything like that?
It's interesting. I probably am so great with dealing with C-suite. It's because I've written as presidents and CEOs of companies. When you write as other people, you kind of lose your own voice. So no, I haven't written anything for myself. I just write for other people. So that's an interesting perspective. But I feel like you make the hustle fun for you. And when it stops being fun for you, then it's okay to go back to something that was familiar or safe. And I think that's the best part. I know tons of people who go in-house and then they contract and then they in-house and they contract. Like, the best part of this life and building your skills quicker than most people is that you can change your mind at any time and you're not stuck anywhere. And as long as you remember that, there's so many different opportunities you might not have even considered.
Absolutely love it. Well, thank you. I think it's a fantastic end on. Sam, once again, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I hope that this leads to other people within the quorum reaching out to you on Slack. If you're, of course, are you open to that question?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I don't have a book for you to read or socials to plug, but I love supporting other people. If you want someone to review your resume or help you transition from one career or specialty area to another, that's my sweet spot. I want to empower you to know that you can try new things in new areas. So definitely reach out to me.
Fantastic. Can I send you the first couple chapters of my novel so you can just draw one big red Sharpie through it? Because I still got.
I call it trimming the fat, actually.
Okay.
Yes. So I will tear it apart.
I wish I'm the biggest part of that joke is that I definitely don't have two chapters of the novel and nothing. So yeah, looks like we have satisfied the questions, and again, I'll reiterate my thanks. Enjoy your Tuesday. Say hi to your brother for me, and yeah, hopefully we continue to collaborate and speak within.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Sam.